Apple has already launched many products for decades, and now the company is working on many more. The company's most affordable tablet, iPad mini, is one of these. A new report from Mark Gurman from Bloomberg hints towards the arrival of the iPad mini 6 later this year. The upcoming iPad mini 2021 is hinted to get a major overhaul this year, and he says the tablet will be launched alongside the larger display iMac. He also claims that the alterations will be similar to what we have seen on the iPod Air. Welcome back to Apple Addiction. So in this video, we're going to tell you about iPad mini 6, what to expect. This video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick to the end. Since the new Mini 6 seems to be essentially a smaller version of the iPad Air 4, right down to the camera bump, the design, and of course, the display, we can almost certainly expect a lot of the specs to match up. And we know that because in 2019, the iPad Air 3 and the iPad mini 4 were essentially identical in terms of the specs and features apart from the Smart Connector. So, if we look at the specs of the latest iPad Air 4, we should expect the new Mini to get 64 gigs of storage at the base price, the same Touch ID power button, the same 20-watt USB-C power adapter, all of the same display features, the same 12-megapixel camera on the back, the same 7-megapixel camera on the front, and the same Wi-Fi 6 support with Bluetooth 5.0. But according to John Prosser, he says that it's going to be coming with 5G cellular support, which isn't currently on the Air 4. The iPad mini 6 could come in two models, one with 4GB RAM and 64GB of storage, whereas the other with 6GB RAM and 256GB of storage. The current iPad mini gen features a 7.9 Retina display with a resolution of 2048 by 1536 resolution. It is powered by an A12 Bionic chipset that also powers devices like iPhone XS Max, iPhone XR, and iPhone XS. According to John's sources, it is going to be coming by the end of this year, which also makes sense because, in the past, most of the iPad minis were revealed in the fall. And as far as the price tag, it is expected to starting at $499, simply because of the fact that Apple raised the iPad Air 4 price by $100 last year, up to $599. And it was totally justified because of the new redesign, at least from Apple's perspective. According to 9to5Mac, the new iPad mini 6 will feature the A15 chip, expected to debut in the iPhone 13. This will be based on current 5nm manufacturing processes, and the iPhone 13's chip will be made using a new N5 Plus manufacturing technique. 9to5Mac also says that, according to sources, the new iPad mini will have a USB-C connector and a Smart Connector like the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. Touch ID. Touch ID is being built into the smaller power button, just like it is on the iPad Air 4, and because of the smaller size of the Mini, it's probably going to be easier to use compared to the Air. But in my opinion, Face ID on the iPad Pro is much better. But of course, Apple's going to be keeping that as an exclusive feature just for the pros. And here is the weird part. There are no speaker grills on the top of the iPad mini 6, like there are on the iPad Air 4. John confirmed on Twitter that the new speakers will only be on the bottom, which is very frustrating because we know that it's not getting a full stereo sound when you hold it in landscape mode. But nevertheless, John says that the speakers are crazy nice, even if they're only going to be on the bottom. Camera. First of all, if you look at the camera bump, it looks essentially identical to the one that's on the MacBook Air. And on top of that, we have that mic right next to it on the side, whereas on the Air, it's below it. So it looks like it's getting the same exact specs in terms of the rear cameras. But the absolutely crazy thing from this render is that apparently the iPad mini 6 is getting the Smart Connector, which it has never had before. And this is really weird because the iPad mini has never had the Smart Connector on the back. And that's because the mini is so small that it can't really support regular keyboard cases. Even the one on the 11-inch iPad Pro is scrunched down compared to the full 12.9-inch model. Launch date. Mark Gurman from Bloomberg recently suggested that the launch of iPad mini 6 will take place later this year, probably September or October. Some other sources also suggested the same timeline, so it's possible that the report is true. The iPad mini 5, current gen, was launched in March 2019, so it was believed that the iPad mini 6 would arrive at the Spring Loaded event. But that did not happen, and we are still looking for the exact launch timeline. Edge display. Mini 6 is getting basically the same edge-to-edge display with the rounded corners, the same as on the Air. But the interesting detail to notice is that the bezels are definitely slimmer on the Mini, which is nice. And it totally makes sense, because if they were the same size, the display would look really weird, especially for that small of a size. Back in 2019, the 10.5 inches iPad Air 3 received the same thin bezels on the sides, matching the ones on the Mini. And as for this new Mini 6, you should expect the display to remain basically the same, probably including the same resolution. Since the pixels per inch on the current Mini are already much higher than there are 264 pixels per inch goal for their iPad displays. According to John Prosser, he says that the iPad Mini 6 will come with new dimensions, are going to be 3mm longer and 3mm wider, while keeping the thickness exactly the same. So this is essentially going to allow the display to get much larger. Bottom side. The bottom side, which shows speaker grills and apparently a new USB port, which is awesome. And it totally makes sense, because when Apple redesigned the iPad Air 4, they gave it USB-C. So it makes sense for the iPad Mini as well. And that's going to give you access to a bunch of dock adapters. And of course, it's a much better port. According to John, the iPad Mini 6 is going to be coming in silver, gold, and black. Not space gray, but black. So that's going to be interesting to see. The Mini 6 also has Apple Pencil support. But one interesting detail. John says that there was an Apple Pencil 3 leak a few months ago, but he compared that leaked image to the size of the current Apple Pencil. And he's showing that the new Apple Pencil is a little bit shorter. And that actually makes total sense for the Mini, because if you think about it, the current Apple Pencil 2 is almost the same length as the current iPad Mini, which is very funny. So a shorter Apple Pencil makes total sense. But then going even further, John thinks that this might actually be for the new Apple Pencil 3 that's meant for all of the iPads. And if you think about it, the current Apple Pencil does seem unnecessarily long. And on top of that, it's going to make it much easier for younger kids and students to use, compared to the current Apple Pencil. Wireless magnetic charger. iPad Mini 6 is getting the same redesign as the Air already has. But if you take a closer look, you can see that the Mini now gets the same wireless magnetic charger for the Apple Pencil, which is very interesting. The Air is actually quite a bit wider. If you take a look at the iPad Pro's wireless magnetic charger, it is actually quite a bit thinner than the one on the Air. As far as the new Mini, this essentially means that it's going to support the new Apple Pencil too. So you no longer have to worry about plugging it into that Lightning port to charge, which is very annoying. That's definitely a good sign. And of course, these new renders and leaks from John perfectly match up with what Mark Gurman from Bloomberg said recently, that the iPad Mini is planned to have narrower screen borders, while the removal of its home button, which has also been tested. A few months ago, 9 new iPad models were spotted at EEC, Eurasian Economic Commission. The listed model numbers are A2589, A2568, A2569, A2377, A2604, A2567, A2378, A2588, A2602. It is expected that the iPad Mini 2021 is one of these. Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.